Okay. So point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Yes, you need to memorize that before your test on Friday. It's not that difficult to memorize. What you do need to know is that m is probably going to be the what? Slope, okay? But your y1 and your x1 come through your ordered pairs. Okay, so your ordered pair is your x1 and your y1. And that's all you need. Point slope form needs a point and a slope. It tells you in the name of it what it needs. Okay, point slope form needs a point and a slope. What did slope intercept form need? Slope and the y-intercept, right? So the name of them kind of tells you what you need. So for point slope form, you need a point and a slope. So what you're going to do is you're going to plug those in. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And I know it looks weird to leave things in parentheses, but that's what we're going to do. We're not going to distribute out. We're going to leave our answer in parentheses in this form. So we're going to write y minus before you even look at y. You're going to write y minus. What did we say is y1? -3. And I'm going to use parentheses, and I'm going to fix my double negatives in here in a minute. Equals what's m? 2. Parentheses, x minus, what's x1? 4. So anybody have any questions about how we plugged in y1, m, and x1? The last thing you have to do, y'all, this is really this simple. The last thing you have to do is change any double negatives to a plus. So right here we have minus -3. We're going to change it to y plus 3. Everything else stays the same. And this right here is my answer. Okay, so yeah, I know it looks weird to us to leave parentheses because our mind wants to distribute that. Okay, we will do that next section, but for point slope form, you leave it with parentheses like this. And the only thing you simplify is your double negatives. Okay, it really is that simple. Okay, so the next one. This time we want to go through the point -5, -2. And have a slope of 2/3. And we want it in point slope form. So what two things do we need? A point and a slope, right? So we're going to use y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So before I even look at what they are, I'm going to write y minus. What is y1? It's our y value of our ordered pair, so -2. So I'm going to use parentheses for my double negatives. Equals, what is my m? 2/3. Parentheses, x minus, what's x1? -5. I'm going to use parentheses around my double negatives again. And what's the last thing I have to do? Change double negatives to plus signs. So y plus 2 equals 2/3 x plus 5. And that's the most difficult as they get when you have to change both of them. Which is really not difficult at all, is it? Any questions about that? You guys try this one. When you get an equation in point slope form, you can check it with a neighbor. Somebody's walking on the roof. They were going in a hurry, too. All right, so point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. What do we plug in for y1? 4. So we say y minus 4 equals what's m? Times x minus what's x1. And what's our very last step? Change double negatives. Do we have any double negatives? Yes. Which one? With the x, right? Is it possible that you don't have double negatives? When do you think you would not have double negatives? Yes, if the coordinates are all positive. Positive coordinates, both of them are positive, then you will not have to do that last step. So raise your hand if you got that for your answer. Very good. Any questions about point slope form? Okay. Well, that's all of section 5.3. Next, we're moving on to standard form, which is going to take us a little bit longer. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. And a, b, and c are all numbers. Ax plus by equals c. A, B, and C are all numbers. They could be 1, so you might not see an A or a B. But specifically, A needs to be a positive whole number. A cannot be negative, and A cannot be a fraction or a decimal. So A should be a positive whole number. And this one's going to take a little bit longer than point slope form did, and we're actually going to use point slope to help us out. So this time we want the equation of a line in standard form, and we want it to go through the point 27 and have a slope of -4. What did they give me right here? What's this? A point. And what's this? A slope. So I can use point slope form to get me started because they gave me a point and a slope. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with point slope. Start with point slope. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we'll say y minus, what goes in for y1? 7 equals, what's m? Times x minus, what's x1? 2. Do I have any double negatives? No, I don't, because my coordinates were all positive. All right, so here's point slope right here. Simplified point slope form. So, point slope form has parentheses. The standard form have parentheses. No, it's just ax plus by equals c. Okay? So, I got to get from having parentheses to having no parentheses. So, how do I get rid of my parentheses? We're going to distribute. Very good. So, I'm going to say y minus 7 equals, what's -4 times x? -4x. And what's -4 times -2? +8. Now I'm going to look for any like terms real quick. Y'all see anything that are like terms? The 7 and the 8. Okay? And so these don't have variables, do they? So which part of the ax plus by equals c does not have a variable? C. right? So that's the last term. So it's going to be smart on our end if we go ahead and take that 7 and move it to the 8. So how do we move the 7 to the 8? Good. So that's going to be y equals negative 4x plus 15. Now what does this look like? Now it's in slope-intercept form. Yeah. Now it didn't ask us to put it in slope-intercept form, but it's just one step in our process. Okay? So if I wanted the equation of a line in slope-intercept form, can I go from point slope to slope-intercept form by distributing and combining like terms? Yeah. Okay? So this is a good way for us to just show how we can go from one form to the other. Now, my y is in the correct spot, right? So that my b term is in the right spot. My c term is on the end. Which one do I need to move? The x. I need to cross it in front of the equal sign and put it in front of the y, don't I? So, how do I move it across the equal sign? Add 4x, and I'm going to stick it in front. And x's and y's are not like terms with each other, are they? No. So this is just going to be 4x plus y equals 15. And there's ax plus by, there's a 1 for b, equals c. It's in standard form. Boom. You probably have. You probably did this last year. Okay, so let's just recap. They give us a point and slope. We start with point slope form, simplify it, distribute it, get it to slope intercept form, move the x, and then it should be in standard. Now, if this a is a negative number, we have to fix it, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay. This one makes our life a little bit more complicated. How so? We got to find the slope, right? They didn't come out and tell us the slope. We got to find the slope before we can do point slope form. Mm-hmm.
On the other one.
Yes?
You said, wouldn't it have been easier just putting slope intercept and that manipulating thing?
Yeah, but I wanted to hit all three of them. Yes. But I would still have to have found my B anyways before I could get slope intercept form. So since they gave me a point and a slope, that's why I started with point slope form. Does that make sense? Because I would still have to find my B. So honestly, it would be about the same amount of work. But good observation. It just depends on what your directions say, too. Because if it wants all three forms, that would be the way to go. All right, so let's find our slope. Some of you probably already working on it for me. What's y2? Minus over what's x2? Minus. And what's negative 2 minus 1? Over 1. Simplify to 2. Which point do we want to use? 1, 1. Why do we want to use 1, 1? They're all positive, so that's going to be one less step with point slope. Correct? Okay, so I'm going to start with point slope again. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So y minus, what's y1? 1 equals what's m? And x minus what's x1? 1. Now it's in point slope. How do I get rid of parentheses? Distribute. So I have y minus 1 equals what? Plus 3. Because the negative times the negative is a positive, so don't miss that there. Then what do we want to do? Add 1 to get our like terms together and our c's on the end. So y equals negative 3x plus 4. What form is that? And then how do we fix it to make it standard? Add the 3x to the front. And what is it in standard form? There it is. Any questions? Okay. One more and then a you try, and I think that's all. So what do I need to do first to this one? Find slope. What is y2? Minus over minus 3. That's negative 3 plus 1, which is over negative 1 equals what? Positive 2 is our slope. What point do y'all want to use? Yeah, it's same difference on this one. Same difference. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So if I use 3, negative 1, I'm going to have y minus negative 1 equals, what's m? 2 times x minus 3. And I just have to do what? Well, first I have to do what? Well, I can do that the same step. Let's do it together because one's on the left, one's on the right. So y minus negative 1 changes to what? Y plus 1. And let's go ahead and distribute. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 3 is, okay, now what can I do? Subtract 1. So y equals what? 2x minus 7. Okay, so it's in slope-intercept form. So how do I make it standard? Do I add 2x? It's already positive, so I got to subtract it. And here's where the little funky stuff comes in. Where I told you at the beginning of the lesson that a has to be positive, right? Y'all know how I can fix it? And this would be a negative 7. Just multiply the whole thing by negative 1. And that changes all of our signs. Okay, so all 3 terms. So what's negative 1 times negative 2x? Positive 2x. What's negative 1 times y? Negative y. And the b can be negative. C can be negative also. And what's negative 1 times negative 7? Positive 7. A cannot be negative. B and C can be. Okay. So any questions about that? Pretty simple? Yeah. We're just going from one form to the next. I want you guys to do this one on your own, and then we'll check it. everybody get -1 for their slope? Because if we don't get our slope right, are we going to get our equation right? So it's very important that we can get our slopes correct. Is everybody okay with -1 being the slope? Okay. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Parentheses. There we go. Which point did y'all use? I would use the first one also. It saves us a step. You can use the other one and it'll simplify a little bit differently. But I would use this one. So I would say y minus 4 equals -1 times x minus 1. Did I do that correctly? Then what do I do? I'm going to distribute first. So that gives me -x plus 1. Be careful with that negative times a negative because people miss that. Then what? Add 4 to both sides. And so I get y equals what? Plus 5. And that's in slope-intercept. So how do I make it standard? Add the x on both sides. Is it okay that it's just x? Yeah, because that's a 1x, right? So x plus y equals 5. Raise your hand if you got x plus y equals 5. Any questions about how we get it from point slope to standard form? All right, that is the end of this lesson.